Chapter 821, He Can't Step on Us and Become Famous. Even SMY's agency felt that Luoxing was stupid for not taking the opportunity to join a new agency. With that face of his, if he was smart, he would already be famous throughout the entire nation and not be at home selling vegetables for his father. It's lucky that he isn't famous. Otherwise, our current mess would be even harder to clean up. I was already careful. How did these scandals start? The manager of SMY said to the boss of the agency, as someone sitting at the bottom level of the entertainment industry, "Did you still think that you could have secrets?" Everyone felt lucky that Luoxing was at home working hard as a commoner with no involvement in the current matter. After all, if an artist had no background and was unwilling to take part in under-the-table transactions, then they deserved to be stuck in a dead end. SMY's members didn't like the fact that Luoxing was the only one that received praise, so they instructed some people to cause trouble at Luoxing's store. "Tell your son that he better hide himself well and not show his face. Otherwise, we will hit him every time we see him." The trio of burly men arrived at Luoxing's store, smashed everything they saw and frightened Luoxing's parents pretty badly. Afterwards, Mother Luo kept the entire incident to herself in order not to affect Luoxing. As a result, Luoxing was completely oblivious. However, Longji had sources everywhere and knew exactly what had happened, so she noted down this vengeance on behalf of Luoxing. Soon, the television drama featuring Luoxing as the secondary lead began to broadcast during primetime on a famous channel. Although the cast consisted of new faces, they were all undeniably handsome and beautiful. Plus, their characters were evil, cold and intelligent. Even though their performances weren't extremely outstanding, their acting was consistent. So, after 2 episodes, they already received a huge response from the public. "Oh, have you guys seen the latest idol drama? My girly heart is beating out of its chest. For everyone is so good looking. Even through the screen I can sense the high levels of collagen. I feel like I've returned to my youth." Only 2 episodes have been released. After watching it, I feel it's okay and not cheesy. That's quite rare. Jace. There's a drama to chase now. As there had only been 2 chapters, the secondary male lead barely appeared on screen. But, the cold school bully played by Luoxing immediately made the female viewers squeal in excitement as soon as they saw him. He was wearing a clean white shirt and a pair of white sneakers. As he walked past his fellow schoolmates, he gave off a distant vibe even though he was physically close to them. This young man is quite clean-cut. Why does he look so familiar? Oh, I looked at the names of the cast. He is Luoxing. He is super handsome. Luoxing, I want to have your babies. Indeed. As Tang Ning expected, those that had been searching desperately for information on Luoxing were filled with excitement after seeing Luoxing's television drama. Especially when it came to younger women, how could they not blush when seeing Luoxing's handsome face? It didn't take long before the television ratings for The Devil's Out began to rise. So, from the 3rd night of airing onwards, the numbers continued to shoot upwards. Soon, the first thing that schoolgirls did when they returned home was watch the drama alongside their homework. Even parents that noticed their daughters swooning over this young man couldn't help but sigh. This young man is very clean-cut. They originally wanted to turn off the drama, but, in the end, they simply allowed it. After all, who hadn't been charmed by good looks when they were young? At this time, Luoxing's previous agency finally received news of his appearance in a television drama. Seeing Luoxing's fan base increase every single day, his previous manager was furious. "This Luoxing, I thought he left the industry. It turns out, he went to film a drama behind our backs. In fact, his drama has only aired a few episodes and he already looks like he will be famous. How shameless." After seeing the news, SMY's members were shocked too. Luoxing sure has his tricks. So he abandoned us to take part in a drama. We can't let him continue like this. Otherwise, what would become of us? Exactly. We started from the same boy group. He can't step on us and become famous. Don't worry, I'll do what I can to contact his current agency. I would like to see which agency managed to give someone like Luoxing a second chance. However, no matter how they denied it, Luoxing was already famous. SMY's bad reputation was known to the entire nation, while Luoxing was given a new lease on life. All of a sudden, He was on the path to stardom. He received a lot of invites for threesomes in the past. I wonder if his fans would still like him if we revealed this information. He also looks like the type that likes to drink alcohol. Idiots. SMY's manager slammed her hands on the table after seeing their immature way of thinking. If you are to point out Luo Wuxing's faults at this time, you will simply look like troublemakers that are slandering him. Worst of all, the public will think that you are trying to leech off Luo Wuxing's popularity. How bad of an image do you want? The three young men retreated without another word. I will handle this matter. The three of you don't need to worry about it, the manager glared at them. But, how would they have known that Luo Wuxing's jump to fame was not an accident or moment of luck? Everything happened because of Tang Ning's precise judgment, Long Ji's execution and Lin Qian's management. The outside world was crazy about Luo Wuxing's looks, but Luo Wuxing hadn't prepared himself for this sudden rush of attention. Seeing a rare smile on Luo Wuxing's face, Long Ji warned, "You will continue to grow in fame, so your previous agency will eventually come looking for you. They may try to slander you, bribe you or try other tricks on you. Don't worry, Long Ji, I will do as you say." "There's one thing I haven't told you yet." Long Ji thought for a moment and finally revealed the incident with Mother Luo and Father Luo. "I am aware of the consequences of telling you this, but I've chosen to tell you anyway because I want to know if you will act impulsively. Do you trust that we will get revenge for you, or will you impulsively act on your own and destroy the life that has just been reborn?" After hearing this, Luo Wuxing clenched his fists so tightly that they cracked. "It's not time yet." Hearing Long Ji say this, Luo Wuxing took a deep breath and calmed himself down. "Don't worry, I won't act recklessly." "Good." "Did you know? The drama hasn't even been aired halfway and advertisers have already started looking for you. Plus, you've also been invited to take part in another idol drama. Your path has just begun. As for those other feral creatures, they will simply grow in jealousy. You simply need to focus on your performance and leave them for us to deal." Chapter 822, Try to complain, get a face slap. To prevent people from causing trouble again, Long Ji specifically hired 2 bodyguards for Luo Wuxing's parents. These 2 men appeared to be normal workers in the store, but in reality, they could paralyze a person with one swift move. Of course, SMY's members couldn't accept being overshadowed, especially since they had always been the ones to bully Luo Wuxing. How could they let him tread on top of them now? So, they hired 3 men to appear at Luo Wuxing's parents' store to cause trouble again. Unfortunately, as soon as they stepped foot into the store, they were kicked out by the bodyguards arranged by Long Ji. On top of that, they were dragged to an empty alley and given a good beating. "If you turn on the 3 rascals that hired you and give them a beating, I will pay you triple of what they offered you. What do you say?" The 2 bodyguards tempted. "We can give you a deposit first." The 3 men were beaten up badly, but as soon as they heard that they'd be offered triple the amount, they immediately confirmed, "Are you serious?" Of course. Meanwhile, the 3 rascals were waiting for the good news. But, to their surprise, as soon as the men they hired returned, they ended up beating them up. Even though the men weren't professional bodyguards, they were experienced with fighting, so it was impossible for the 3 rascals to defend themselves. The 3 men were badly injured. But, even after arriving at the hospital, they were too afraid to call the police or make a fuss. If people found out about this incident, they would eventually discover that they were actually the ones that tried to cause trouble for Luo Wuxing's parents first. If that happened, their predicament would be even worse. "I never thought that Luo Wuxing would become so ruthless." Somebody's famous now and has money to hire bodyguards. "The son of a beach is impressive, but I am going to destroy him." "With your abilities?" "Don't let me find out which agency signed him on." Not only SMY's members, but also their agency was desperately trying to find information on Luo Wuxing's current agency. They discovered that the agency's name was Say Superstar Media. But, where did this agency suddenly come from? No one had ever heard of them before. Since it's a no-name agency, they should be easy to deal with. "How dare they snatch our artist from us? I'm going to show them who's boss," Miji said confidently. "I am going to take this opportunity to snatch back Luo Wuxing's contract." In a short amount of time, Luo Wuxing managed to produce some good results. So, late one night, Mo Ting couldn't help but open a bottle of champagne to help Tang Ning celebrate. You've already secured initial victory and are doing well, Mr. Mo. Are you trying to say that I am still miles away from being like Hyrule? Tang Ning raised an eyebrow while sitting at the dining table. Don't worry, I won't disappoint you. By the way, I've noticed that you've gained some weight. Really? I must thank my wife for feeding me well. As Tang Ning had been spending more time at home, she found herself using half her time experimenting with recipes even though her cooking was never bad to begin with. So, these days, Hyrua's staff would see President Mo carrying a lunchbox to and from work every day. Everyone was so jealous that they would find themselves dribbling at the sight of it. Hence, they all assumed that Tang Ning had become a housewife after Zuzan's incident. If you get any fatter, I won't want you anymore. After hearing this, Mo Ting lifted Tang Ning onto the dining table and grabbed hold of her chin. I dare you to say that again. Tang Ning smiled and hooked her arms around his neck submissively. Why don't you punish me instead? I was just about to do that. As soon as he was done talking, Mo Ting immediately undid his buttons. It seemed he needed to show his wife properly whether he had truly gained any weight. In reality, he was still as powerful and strong as ever. Later that night, Long Ji gave Tang Ning a phone call. The manager named Mi Ji has been going around asking for information about our agency. I'm sure she'll come looking for us very soon. Good, Tang Ning replied as she helped Zai-kun remove his clothes. It would be even better if you meet while Woshing is around. To gain a person's loyalty, one had to give them what they wanted. The manager had bullied Woshing for a long time, so he was bound to be boiling with hatred. This was an unstable factor that Tang Ning and Long Ji had to consider. Understood. I will display my skills well in front of Woshing and show Mi Ji how to be a proper manager. Long Ji laughed. That's all for now. Good night. To allow the woman to find her, Long Ji deliberately leaked the agency's address to people within the industry. And just before she went to sleep, she gave Woshing a phone call. Come to the office tomorrow afternoon to discuss an endorsement deal. This was perfect. However, Lu Che was a little jealous. Why are you calling your artist so late at night? Long Ji understood what he was thinking, so she glared at him with a smile. Are you jealous? No, it's just that, from now on, you should call your artists earlier. Just admit that you're jealous. Fine. A little, Lu Che couldn't deny. After all, the artist you ladies are investing in is especially good looking, isn't he? I'm already a mother. What are you thinking? Long Ji hit Lu Che on the chest. Plus, in my eyes, you will forever be the low EQ block of wood that I like. No matter what happens in the future, nothing can change that. Lu Che understood that Long Ji wasn't like that. He was simply a little jealous. Plus, I know that I will never be as good as you. So, even though the president told me not to help the madam, I'm aware that he never said that I can't help you. Ha ha, my good husband. Long Ji didn't care about her pride. She knew that one day she may actually need Lu Che's help. Try to complain, get a face slap. Long Ji loved it when her enemies presented themselves in front of her, especially when they overestimated themselves. So, early in the morning, she headed straight for the office, just so her enemy wouldn't show up in vain. 8 a.m. was sincere enough, wasn't it? Soon after, Woshing also arrived. Seeing that Long Ji was humming happily to herself, he couldn't help but laugh. Did something good happen today? Why are you so happy? It's nothing. Long Ji placed a few advertising briefs in front of Woshing. Although you have plenty of options, you can't simply accept everything. You need to select the ones that are well suited to you. Have a look at these advertising briefs and pick out the ones you want. Woshing looked at his options. They were either shampoo brands or food brands. Worst of all, the accompanying lines were extremely cheesy. Can I reject them all? Why? Long Ji revealed a meaningful smile. But, before Woshing got a chance to reply, Long Ji's secretary began knocking on the door. Long Ji, the person you've been waiting for has arrived. Chapter 823, Your debt may be settled. But I haven't started with mine yet. After hearing the secretary's notification, Long Ji raised her eyebrows and asked Woshing, want to watch a good show? Woshing looked at Long Ji questioningly, but nodded his head after a few seconds of silence. In that case, promise you not to make a sound, Long Ji instructed. Although Luo Sheng didn't understand what was happening, he didn't question it. From his perspective, he knew that Long Ji would never do anything to hurt him. Soon, the two of them reached the meeting room. Just outside the door, Long Ji turned and looked at Luo Sheng. "Stay here, don't come in." Luo Sheng nodded gently and leaned against the door. Inside the meeting room, Miji was not alone. She had brought along a knowledgeable lawyer. As soon as they saw Long Ji, they stood up and stuck out their hands. "Hello." Long Ji glanced at the two people and sat down in her seat. "Miji, let's just get to the point." Miji was surprised. She didn't expect Long Ji to know her name. You're Luo Sheng's previous manager. It should be no surprise that I know your name." "Speak, what are you here for?" Miji adjusted her black-framed glasses before she instructed her lawyer to pull out some documents. She then placed it in front of Long Ji. "I came today to discuss Luo Sheng. 3 months ago, he paid off his contract cancellation, but he still has a debt that hasn't been cleared. So, we came today to clarify whether Superstar Media will be paying for him, or whether he will be handling the debt himself." After hearing this, Luo Sheng placed his hands on the door, ready to storm inside, but he remembered what Long Ji had told him about being quiet. So, he endured it. "Oh, a debt? Let me have a look." Long Ji grabbed the documents out of the lawyer's hands and flipped through it casually. She then smiled and asked, "Why didn't you ask for this 3 months ago? Now that Luo Sheng's famous, you suddenly show up asking for it. Don't you have a bottom line?" "This has nothing to do with bottom lines. It is only fair for someone to pay back what they owe," Miji demanded. "I actually don't want much from him. As long as he returns to my agency for half a year, he will clear everything he owes." "Do you have any shame?" Long Ji asked. "We are simply negotiating. I am also negotiating with you," Long Ji replied smoothly. "Previously, when Luo Sheng wasn't famous yet, you kept complaining about him. Now that he's made a comeback, you expect him to return? Since you refuse to take our offer, then Superstar Media can pay his debt for him." "Fine. Next year, during the King Ming Festival, I will burn a few extra notes for you," Long Ji said as she slammed her hands on the table. "Have you looked at yourself in the mirror? How dare you try to play tricks in front of me? Would you believe that I'd reveal to the public that you are keeping 3 toy boys in private? Back when I was a manager, you were still playing in the sandpit. How dare you act arrogantly in front of me?" After hearing that Long Ji knew about her secret, Miji's face turned pale. You're talking nonsense." "I can speak nonsense, but evidence won't." "Not only do I have evidence about you, I also have evidence that your boss is keeping a mistress in a lake house, and this mistress has given birth to 2 children. If I reveal this information to the public, do you think your agency will still be able to make a sound?" "You are completely shameless." Long Ji immediately pulled out a stack of photos from her drawer and threw it in front of Miji. "You investigated me?" Miji went from feeling fear to feeling guilt and anger. "Did you think that I'd need to personally investigate a rubbish agency like yours?" Long Ji sneered. "Don't think too highly of yourself. Let me tell you clearly right now that your appearance at Superstar Media was a bad decision from the start. I can make it so you no longer exist in the entertainment industry. So, think it over. Do you still want Luo Sheng to pay his debt?" Miji swallowed nervously, realizing that she had hit a dead end. So, she picked up her documents and got up to leave. But, Long Ji stopped her. "Wait." Miji did not move nor make a sound. "Your debt may be settled, but I haven't started with mine yet." "There's no need to rush." Miji was trembling, but she had no choice but to turn around and sit back down. "To prevent you guys from showing up again to try and bite us like crazy dogs, I've prepared a contract. After you sign it, Luo Sheng will no longer have any ties to you. If your agency tries to use Luo Sheng's name again, then we will see you in court." After speaking, Long Ji pulled out a contract from her drawers and threw it in front of Miji. "Secondly, when it comes to Luo Sheng's debt, both you and I know where it came from. If in future, I hear anything from the media about Luo Sheng being in debt, I won't care who's at fault. I will automatically hold you liable. If that happens, you will need to accept the consequences." Thirdly, if we were to talk about gratitude and appreciation, Luo Sheng has not gained anything from your agency. So, Don't you dare go around claiming that Lo Wuxing got to where he is today by treading on you and leeching off your hard work. He was created by superstar media. Don't try to take credit for yourselves. Lastly, and most importantly, don't ever appear in front of Lo Wuxing and I again. After you sign this contract, get lost. Miji never expected that Long Ji anticipated her arrival and had already prepared a contract for her. The funny thing was, she even thought she'd go home with some benefits. It seemed, from now on, relying on Lo Wuxing was not a feasible option. How annoying. Miji had no choice but to sign the contract and leave. But, as she walked out the door, she noticed Lo Wuxing standing in the doorway. Lo Wuxing. However, Lo Wuxing completely ignored her and walked over to Long Ji. Let's continue discussing my endorsement offers. I haven't explained my decision yet. Okay, let's go to my office for now. Miji took a deep breath as a common saying crossed her mind, times sure changed. But, Long Ji did not think that way. Lo Wuxing was simply serving back what he had been dealt. As she watched Miji leave with her head between her legs, Long Ji felt especially satisfied. How amusing. Long Ji, thank you, Lo Wuxing said from the bottom of his heart. He knew, with Long Ji's threat, Miji would no longer act recklessly and he would be free from the rubbish agency. We aren't trying to trick you into doing anything. We simply hope that one day, when you're famous, you will remember that we helped you achieve that fame. Lo Wuxing nodded. So, tell me, why didn't you choose any of these offers? They obviously look like great opportunities. I think the agency's image of me does not suit this kind of silly and innocent style. Long Ji nodded and patted him on the shoulder. Lo Wuxing, you need to remember that an artist can only last if they pave their own path. A viral sensation can't last more than 3 years. So, it's important that you make the right choices while you are still on the rise. When it comes to resources, it's not about quantity, but quality. Chapter 824, Is she planning to make a comeback? How about that person? Is she planning to make a comeback? Long Ji understood who Lo Wuxing was referring to and smiled. Does she need you to worry about her? If she managed to pull you up from the dead, do you think that she'd be held back by a few rumors? She will naturally return when she feels like it. After hearing Long Ji's words, Lo Wuxing's respect for Tang Ning grew deeper. Exactly how impressive was Tang Ning's abilities? Even Mo Ting wouldn't be able to answer that question. Regardless, there was one point that was absolutely undeniable. With Lo Wuxing's current results, he was still far from Tang Ning's standards. Long Ji, help me schedule more jobs. I don't care how tough or exhausting it is. I can handle it. We don't need you to endure anything. We simply hope that you don't complain about anything that we arrange for you. Afterwards, Long Ji added, regardless of whether you want to be an actor or a singer in the future, you need to be capable of everything. Don't think that just because you are a main vocal, you don't need to worry about acting. Which actor doesn't want to pursue more than one field these days? So, after your small taste of fame, Tang Ning has asked you to think clearly about your standpoint. Following on, we have booked you in for a few more acting roles. They will all be supporting characters, no mains. You need to understand how it feels to be a supporting actor first. Hairu only wants the best. Hairu. Lo Wuxing was surprised by the mention of this name. That's right. We have a partnership with Hairu. As long as an artist qualifies, they will eventually end up signing with Hairu. So, if you want to go there, you will need to work hard. After hearing this, Lo Wuxing felt an increase in motivation. Entering Hairu meant that he could become a future legend. If someone else had said the same words to him, he would have felt that they were making empty promises. But, when it came from Long Ji, it meant that it came from Tang Ning. If this was the case, it was impossible for him not to believe it. Don't worry, Long Ji. I can handle hard work. Long Ji gave him a secretive smile and placed a new script in front of him. Have a look at this and report to the set as soon as possible. Lo Wuxing would never forget that his second acting role was a villain. In fact, it was a role where he wore a mask for majority of the time. But, Lo Wuxing was prepared. Since Tang Ning picked it, then she definitely had a reason for it. So, a few days later, Lo Wuxing held onto his script and arrived on set. Seeing Lo Wuxing's seriousness, Long Ji finally relaxed. As a result, when it came time to report to Tang Ning, She put in a few extra words of praise for him. Should we hire an assistant for the young man? No rush, Tang Ning replied. He is just a secondary lead at the moment and doesn't need much help. He's already experienced a lot in the past. He's not that prissy. Plus, we need to focus on signing another artist after he's done with this drama. Have you already picked someone? Long Ji lit up with excitement. Lin Qian is currently keeping an eye on her, Tang Ning replied. A few days ago, Luo Xing asked me when you'd be making a comeback. When superstar media becomes famous, Tang Ning replied. But, this time, she had no intention of returning as a model nor an actress. She would be returning to the industry as a manager and boss. Perhaps, by that time, the two little rascals would be able to accompany by her side. I look forward to that day, Long Ji said before she hung up the phone, tidied her stuff and drove home. However, as soon as she stepped in through the front door, she felt the atmosphere was a little odd. It turned out, Mother Lu had arrived. Lu Che was still at work, so the nanny was currently taking care of their daughter. As soon as the nanny saw Long Ji, she glanced at her awkwardly, gesturing that she didn't want to get involved in their battle. So, Long Ji nodded her head, allowing her to leave. After the nanny left, the only adults left were Long Ji and Mother Lu. At this moment, the atmosphere felt extremely hostile. It's only been a little over a month. How could you abandon your child and go to work? Can't Lu Che afford to feed you? Mother Lu challenged. When I asked you to have a son, you made it seem so tough. Yet, you have so much energy to go to work. Mom, don't make it sound so bad, Long Ji said calmly, trying to show respect and virtue to the elderly. Do you and Lu Che have any consideration for me? No, we don't, so, you have no point being here, Long Ji replied smoothly. Now that she returned to work and socialized a lot more, her response came a lot more naturally. Afterwards, Long Ji went into the nursery to look for her daughter. However, she discovered that the crib where her daughter was supposed to be, was empty. You can give up your search, I've already taken the child away. Since you don't know how to take care of your own child, I've found someone to take care of it for you, Mother Lu growled. At this point, Long Ji could no longer tolerate the old woman. So she walked over to her and asked, is there something wrong with your brain? Since you look down on my daughter, what does my child have to do with you? You're a packing psycho. I will have another child, only if I feel like it. In other words, it is none of your business. Would you talk to me like that when Lu Che's around? Mother Lu yelled. Don't bring up Lu Che. Even if the king appeared in front of me, I would still talk to you like this. Who do you think you are? Long Ji replied as she pointed to Mother Lu. You better return my daughter to me before I treat you like an outsider. However, Mother Lu simply smirked and turned to leave. But, Long Ji quickly stopped her. If you don't hand over my child, you're not going anywhere. Soon, Lu Che finished work and returned home. Sensing the intense atmosphere, he simply had to take one look at the mother and daughter-in-law to know what was happening. Your mother took our child away. Tell her to give her back. From now on, I refuse to be in the same place as her. She's a packing crazy psycho, Long Ji said before she stormed into the bedroom. Lu Che took a deep breath and looked at Mother Lu. Why must you ruin our mother-son relationship? You should have expected this day to come when you first married this woman. Give me back my daughter. Otherwise, you're going to suffer. Lu Che's voice was calm, but it contained a serious threat. You've already made your man upset. Don't you think you've done enough? All you care about is that woman. Have you considered your mother at all? You want your daughter? Give me a grandson in exchange. Otherwise, I'd rather die than let you find your daughter. Don't even dream about it. If your wife refuses to give birth to one, then give me a sample of your sperm. I'll take it to do IVF. Medicine has advanced a lot. You don't necessarily need her. Lu Che, I really want a grandson. Chapter 825, I think she should save herself first. If I agree, will you guarantee to return my daughter to me and never show up in front of us again? Lu Che asked. We can sign an agreement. No, I want to completely end our mother-son relationship, Lu Che said. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., I'll see you in front of the hospital. Bring my daughter along. From tomorrow onwards, You are no longer my mother. Please leave for now. Mother Lu never expected her son to go to such extremes. However, she didn't think there was anything worth holding on to, so she arrogantly turned around and left. Seeing that his home was in a mess, Lu Qi did not immediately head for the bedroom to comfort his wife. Instead, he cleaned up the place first before he knocked on the door and called her name. "Zhao Man, where's my daughter?" Long Ji asked as she opened the door. "I agreed to give my sperm to Mrs. Lu so she can try IVF. In return, she will return our daughter to us at the cost of our mother-son relationship. Don't worry, I won't give it to her. I have other plans," Lu Che said as he placed his arm around Long Ji's shoulder. "I want to see if she'd continue acting crazy." No one would willingly treat their mother like this if the mother treated their child lovingly. Unfortunately, not only was Long Ji stuck in the middle, even if she didn't exist and Lu Che knew that his mother was this crazy, he wouldn't have possibly tolerated her. "Okay, after we get back our daughter, I want to move," Long Ji requested. "I hope a disgusting person like that doesn't show up in my life again." Lu Che pulled Long Ji into his embrace and patted her comfortingly on the back. "Sorry, it's my fault for not managing your relationship well." "Forget about it. No one can manage with someone like your mother." "I can't handle her, but I can hide from her. Wait for a good show tomorrow." After their chat, the couple had a bath and headed to bed. The next morning, Long Ji did not accompany Lu Che to the hospital. To resolve the matter, Lu Che utilized his contacts and asked the doctor for some assistance. "The doctor already has what you want." "Where's my daughter?" Lu Che asked after returning to Mother Lu an hour later. "If you go back on your word, then don't even dream about having a grandson." Mother Lu scoffed. After seeing the doctor nod his head behind Lu Che, she finally replied, "Your daughter is in the car. Someone is taking care of her. I am officially declaring it now. From this moment onwards, I am no longer your son. From now on, I am not related to any of your matters, not even your so-called future grandson," Lu Che said firmly. "HMMPH, don't worry. I won't bother you. Your father and I will bring up the child on our own. As you wish. My grandson will definitely have a better future than your delicate little daughter." Lu Che looked at Mother Lu with deep meaning. He then put away the phone that he was recording their conversation on and left the hospital to retrieve his daughter. After Lu Che left, Mother Lu sneered. Right now, he may not care and think that daughters and sons are the same. But, wait till he grows old and realizes how pitiful it is to not have a son by one's side. Just wait and see. After returning to his car with their daughter, Long Ji finally breathed a sigh of relief. "What trick did you play?" Lu Che smiled and replied, "I got some samples from the hospital's storage. Since she wants a grandson so badly, she can have one all she wants. But, she will find out sooner or later that it isn't blood related to her." Long Ji worried. "Don't worry, I won't let the child be an orphan. If Mrs. Lu decides to abandon the child, someone will be ready to take care of it," Lu Che replied. "You could consider it as helping someone else achieve their dream." Long Ji didn't understand what Lu Che had planned, but she trusted that he knew what he was doing. After all, they were talking about a life. Since Lu Che had already made arrangements, then it was only right for her to let the matter go. "Will Mrs. Lu never appear in front of us again?" "We will move immediately," Lu Che said as he planted a kiss on Long Ji's forehead. "From now on, don't lose our daughter again," Long Ji warned. Lu Che nodded firmly. Meanwhile, Lu Woxing was on set focusing on his secondary lead role. Of course, Tang Ning's ability to select the best was unrivaled. The character this time was the perfect example. Although, Lu Woxing had to wear a mask to begin with, his character removed it towards the end. When the director saw this, he was deeply satisfied with Lu Woxing's look and continuously praised that the fans would go crazy as soon as he appeared on screen. In reality, Lu Woxing didn't have high expectations for this role. He simply thought that Tang Ning was straining his persistence and his acting. While all this was happening, Tang Ning had selected her second artist and Lin Qian was watching over her. But, in relation to superstar media, Hiru's higher-ups began to question Mo Ting about the agency. Half a year had already passed, yet they hadn't heard anything from Tang Ning. Didn't she know that she was on a time limit? As time passed, Their doubts increased. Could she really create a superstar by staying at home and taking care of her kids? How could things be that easy? President Mo, I previously had high hopes for Tangning, but now, you need to give us some reassurance. Otherwise, after 1 year is over, she will need to close down her agency. Exactly. It's already been half a year. I think she should save herself first. Since it's still half a year, then I think you should all remain quiet. Mo Ting immediately brushed them off. Has she prevented you guys from making money in this half a year? The shareholders had nothing to say. In actual fact, even Mo Ting didn't know what Tang Ning was getting up to. Previously, Luo Wuxing was already doing well, yet she decided to make him play another secondary lead role. As a result, the popularity he had gained slowly subsided. What exactly was she thinking? But Tang Ning never intended to make superstar media famous by using Luo Wuxing. She knew that he was a newcomer and she couldn't be impatient with him. Plus, Luo Wuxing couldn't possibly achieve much in a short period of time anyway. Hence, she decided to slowly train him instead. This was the reason why she had created superstar media in the first place. So, when it came to producing results, her hopes were actually placed on her second artist. Her second artist was an extremely talented female singer. 3 years ago, she almost won first place in a singing competing, but her younger sister framed her for stealing from the organizers. As a result, she was disqualified from the finals. Although this matter wasn't officially announced to the public, it caused quite a stir within the industry because everyone assumed she was a thief. But, while she put up with the years of slandering, her sister had become a famous singer.
Hit the like, thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for listening.